Hey, there you are. Thank you again for joining us again for our daily Bible reading time. Welcome back to those who have been joining us, and welcome to the new ones. This is day 237 of our chronological journey through the Bible in a year. And this time we are starting a new book. It's going to be Lamentations. Now, it's believed that Jeremiah, that we just finished, Jeremiah, probably wrote this book, very possibly is attributed to him. And Jeremiah is known as the weeping prophet, and this is partly for that. But in 2 Chronicles, it mentioned that he uttered a lamentation for Josiah, and this very possibly could have been part of all that. So with that in mind, one other thing to point out, it's very poetic, and there are several poetic styles written in this book. And part of it has to do with an acrostic, which is where each segment begins with a different letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So keep those things in mind. Obviously, there's a lament over the tragedies that we've just been reading about, if you've been following along, as they've been carried away into exile. And so this addresses what they were going through at that time. And we're only going to cover chapters 1 through about half of chapter 3 this time, and then we'll finish up the rest of it later. And in the middle of this book, it kind of shifts a little bit from all the lamenting to some hope. So anyway, keep those things in mind, and I'll leave the rest of the commentary to you as you do your own studies. But let's begin if you're ready to go. Lament over Jerusalem. Aleph. Chapter 1. How she sits alone, the city once crowded with people. She who was great among the nations has become like a widow. The princess among the provinces has been put to forced labor. Bet. She weeps bitterly during the night, with tears on her cheeks. There is no one to offer her comfort, not one from all her lovers. All her friends have betrayed her. They have become her enemies. Gimel. Judah has gone into exile, following affliction and harsh slavery. She lives among the nations, but finds no place to rest. All her pursuers have overtaken her in narrow places. Dalet. The roads to Sion mourn, for no one comes to the appointed festivals. All her gates are deserted. Her priests groan. Her young women grieve. And she herself is bitter. He. Her adversaries have become her masters. Her enemies are at ease. For the Lord has made her suffer because of her many transgressions. Her children have gone away as captives before the adversary. Wow. All the splendor has vanished from daughter Sion. Her leaders are like stags that find no pasture. They stumble away exhausted before the hunter. Sighing. During the days of her affliction and homelessness, Jerusalem remembers all her precious belongings that were hers in days of old. When her people fell into the adversary's hand, she had no one to help. The adversaries looked at her, laughing over her downfall. Chet. Jerusalem has sinned grievously. Therefore she has become an object of scorn. All who honored her now despise her, for they have seen her nakedness. She herself groans and turns away. Tet. Her uncleanness stains her skirts. She never considered her end. Her downfall was astonishing. There was no one to comfort her. Lord, look on my affliction, for the enemy boasts. Yod. The adversary has seized all her precious belongings. She has even seen the nations enter her sanctuary, those you had forbidden to enter your assembly. Kap. All her people groan while they search for bread. They have traded their precious belongings for food in order to stay alive. Lord, look and see how I have become despised. Lamed. Is this nothing to you, all you who pass by? Look and see. Is there any pain like mine, which was dealt out to me, which the Lord made me suffer on the day of his burning anger? Mem. He sent fire from on high into my bones. He made it descend. He spread a net for my feet and turned me back. He made me desolate, sick all day long. Nun. My transgressions have been formed into a yoke, fastened together by his hand. They have been placed on my neck, and the Lord has broken my strength. He has handed me over to those I cannot withstand. Samek. The Lord has rejected all the mighty men within me. He has summoned an army against me to crush my young warriors. The Lord has trampled virgin daughter Judah like grapes in a winepress. Ain. I weep because of these things. My eyes flow with tears, for there is no one nearby to comfort me, no one to keep me alive. My children are desolate because the enemy has prevailed. Peh. Sion stretches out her hands. There is no one to comfort her. The Lord has issued a decree against Jacob that his neighbors should be his adversaries. Jerusalem has become something impure among them. Tzadeh. The Lord is just, for I have rebelled against his command. Listen, all you people, look at my pain. My young women and young men have gone into captivity. Kov. I called to my lovers, but they betrayed me. My priests and elders perished in the city while searching for food to keep themselves alive. Resh. The Lord, Lord, see how I am in distress. I am churning within. My heart is broken, for I have been very rebellious. Outside, the sword takes the children. Inside, there is death. Shin. People have heard me groaning, but there is no one to comfort me. All my enemies have heard of my misfortune. They are glad that you have caused it. Bring on the day you have announced, so that they may become like me. Tal. Let all their wickedness come before you, and deal with them as you have dealt with me because of all my transgressions. For my groans are many, and I am sick at heart. Judgment on Jerusalem. Aleph, chapter 2. How the Lord has overshadowed daughter Sion with his anger. He has thrown down Israel's glory from heaven to earth. He did not acknowledge his footstool in the day of his anger. Bet. Without compassion, the Lord has swallowed up all the dwellings of Jacob. In his wrath he has demolished the fortified cities of daughter Judah. He brought them to the ground and defiled the kingdom and its leaders. Gimel. He has cut off every horn of Israel in his burning anger, and withdrawn his right hand in the presence of the enemy. He has blazed against Jacob like a flaming fire that consumes everything. Dalet. He has strung his bow like an enemy. His right hand is positioned like an adversary. He has killed everyone who was the delight to the eye, pouring out his wrath like fire on the tent of daughter Sion. Hey, the Lord is like an enemy. He has swallowed up Israel. He swallowed up all its palaces and destroyed its fortified cities. He has multiplied mourning and lamentation within daughter Judah. Wow. He has wrecked his temple as if it were merely a shack in a field. destroying his place of meeting. The Lord has abolished appointed festivals and Shabbats in Sion. He has despised king and priest in his fierce anger. Sighing. The Lord has rejected his altar, repudiated his sanctuary. He has handed the walls of her palaces over to the enemy. They have raised a shout in the house of the Lord, as on the day of an appointed festival. Chet. The Lord determined to destroy the wall of daughter Zion. He stretched out a measuring line and did not restrain himself from destroying. He made the ramparts and walls grieve. Together they waste away. Det. Sion's gates have fallen to the ground. He has destroyed and shattered the bars on her gates. Her king and her leaders live among the nations. Instruction is no more, and even her prophets receive no vision from the Lord. Yod. The elders of daughter Sion sit on the ground in silence. They have thrown dust on their heads and put on sackcloth. The young women of Jerusalem have bowed their heads to the ground. Kof. My eyes are worn out from weeping. I am churning within. My heart is poured out in grief because of the destruction of my dear people, because infants and nursing babies faint in the streets of the city. Lamed. They cry out to their mothers, "Where is the grain and wine?" as they faint like the wounded in the streets of the city, as their life pours out in the arms of their mothers. Mem. What can I say on your behalf? What can I compare you to, daughter Jerusalem? What can I liken you to, so that I may console you, virgin daughter Sion? For your ruin is as vast as the sea. Who can heal you? Nun. Your prophets saw visions for you that were empty and deceptive. They did not reveal your iniquity and so restore your fortunes. They saw pronouncements for you that were empty and misleading. Samek. All who pass by scornfully clap their hands at you. They hiss and shake their heads at daughter Jerusalem. Is this the city that was called the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? Peh. All your enemies open their mouths against you. They hiss and gnash their teeth, saying, "We have swallowed her up. This is the day we have waited for. We have lived to see it." Ayin. The Lord has done what he planned. He has accomplished his decree, which he ordained in days of old. He has demolished without compassion, letting the enemy gloat over you and exalting the horn of your adversaries. Tzadeh. The hearts of the people cry out to the Lord. Wall of daughter Zion, let your tears run down like a river day and night. Give yourself no relief and your eyes no rest. Kopf. Arise, cry out in the night, from the first watch of the night. Pour out your heart like water before the Lord's presence. Lift up your hands to him for the lives of your children who are fainting from hunger at the head of every street. Resh. Lord, look and consider to whom you have done this. Should women eat their own children, the infants they have nurtured? Should priests and prophets be killed in the Lord's sanctuary? Sheen. Both young and old are lying on the ground in the streets. My young women and young men have fallen by the sword. You have killed them in the day of your anger, slaughtering without compassion. Tal. You summon those who terrorize me on every side, as if for an appointed festival day. On the day of the Lord's anger, no one escaped or survived. My enemy has destroyed those I nurtured and reared. Hope through God's mercy. Aleph, chapter 3. I am the man who has seen affliction under the rod of God's wrath. He has driven me away and forced me to walk in darkness instead of light. Yes, he repeatedly turns his hand against me all day long. Bait. He has worn away my flesh and skin. He has broken my bones. He has laid siege against me, encircling me with bitterness and hardship. He has made me dwell in darkness like those who have been dead for ages. Gimel. He has walled me in, so I cannot get out. He has weighed me down with chains. Even when I cry out and plead for help, he blocks out my prayer. He has walled in my ways with blocks of stone. He has made my paths crooked. Dalet. He is a bear waiting in ambush, a lion in hiding. He forced me off my way and tore me to pieces. He left me desolate. He strung his bow and set me as the target for his arrow. He pierced my kidneys with shafts from his quiver. I am a laughing stock to all my people, mocked by their songs all day long. He filled me with bitterness, satiated me with wormwood. Wow. He ground my teeth with gravel and made me cower in the dust. I have been deprived of peace. I have forgotten what prosperity is. Then I thought, my future is lost, as well as my hope from the Lord. Sighing. Remember my affliction and my homelessness, the wormwood and the poison. I continually remember them and have become depressed. Yet I call this to mind, and therefore I have hope. Chet. Because of the Lord's faithful love, we do not perish, for his mercies never end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. I say, the Lord is my portion. Therefore, I will put my hope in him. Det. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the person who seeks him. It is good to wait quietly for salvation from the Lord. It is good for a man to bear the yoke while he is still young. Yod. Let him sit alone and be silent, for God has disciplined him. Let him put his mouth in the dust. Perhaps there is still hope. Let him offer his cheek to the one who would strike him. Let him be filled with disgrace. Kof. For the Lord will not reject us forever. Even if he causes suffering, he will show compassion according to the abundance of his faithful love. For he does not enjoy bringing affliction or suffering on mankind. Lamed. Crushing all the prisoners of the land beneath one's feet, denying justice to a man in the presence of the Most High, or subverting a person in his lawsuit. The Lord does not approve of these things. May the Lord bless the reading and study of his word.